So today's video is about what it really is like to walk on a prosthetic. Because I know this is a question that anyone that's facing amputation will have, or anyone that's literally just had it done. I know that's the first question they're going to ask. And the answer is, at first, I'm not going to lie, it's really painful. But it's one of those things that becomes not painful at all over time, and it becomes part of your daily life and your general being. So when you first walk on your prosthetic, and the first one that they give you, it's going to hurt, it's going to feel unnatural, it's going to feel odd, it's going to feel clunky, it's going to feel really heavy, which is quite odd, because it's actually lighter than a real leg, but it feels heavier than having nothing attached, which is what you'll be used to at that point. It's also going to feel quite weird in the sense that it probably won't be adjusted right for the first time you walk on it, and that's something you learn with over time, and you learn how it's supposed to be adjusted and how it's comfortable for you. Now for me, it was only a matter of a few weeks until it started to feel comfortable, and by that I mean it felt like it was part of me. So until then, it had felt like every step I was standing in a bear trap, where the pressure for the prosthesis is the front and back of your calf, or the back of your calf and the front of your shin, and it's a very unnatural position to walk in, and it's very weird having your weight there. In fact, at some point just wearing the prosthetic in general hurt, again where your stump isn't used to it yet. However, after a short period of time, that disappears. For me, I noticed it about a week and a half after getting my first leg, where all of a sudden something just clicked, or just something went, and all of a sudden it didn't hurt anymore. It ached, but only after extended use, which is normal. Everybody will get that. But the actual pain side of walking just stopped. And I'm hoping that's the same for everybody else. So once you've been walking for a little while, it'll actually feel more natural, in the sense that your leg will feel like it's part of you. You'll move with it, and you'll use it just like you would your old leg, effectively. And then after a little while after that, it becomes natural, and it becomes the only way of walking. So for me, I've had my leg for about 2 months, I think, and now walking and it feels as natural as anything. It's part of my stride, the subtle differences in socket height, because your foot will change, or your leg will change length throughout the day, depending on how many socks you've got and how well you're fitting in. Your leg can go up and down depending on that, and that's just one of those things you get used to. Sometimes when you've put on an extra sock, it'll be a little bit higher than usual. Sometimes when you need to put on another sock, it'll be a little bit lower. But it's one of those things your body just adjusts for. And it gets to the point now where I can walk without looking at the floor, which is a thing people tend to do a lot. They'll stare at the floor as they walk, which is a really bad way to learn to walk again. You need to look forwards and scan ahead, so scan for obstacles ahead of you, and instead of looking at the floor all the time, because you're going to trip over. And that's when your leg starts to feel like it's part of you. The other thing you'll learn over time, which it took me a little while to learn, but eventually I just got used to it, is putting your leg on in the right orientation. Now by that I mean you'll learn at what point or what rotation your stump feels comfortable in your socket, and what rotation your foot is at to walk properly. It's an odd thing to describe, but you can tell when even your foot's off by a slight degree. It'll be the difference between it pushing your knee out to the left, pushing your knee out to the right, or it's staying dead still. And if that's the case, if you're struggling a lot because your knee keeps on wanting to go to one side, the most likely thing is your foot's not adjusted to the right position. It's a very common problem. I had it for a couple of weeks before I realised that that was what was causing it. Another thing you'll realise is if you're lucky enough to have a sprung foot like I have, so the bottom of my prosthetic isn't fixed, it's on two kind of like leaf spring systems but made out of carbon fibre, similar to the running blades. It took me a little while, but eventually I could feel the spring in the step. So I've got a two-blade system, so I've got a heel blade and two toe blades. And I can feel the spring and the give when my heel strikes the floor and I walk over it, and I can also feel the spring and the give when I step over it, and the spring that's effectively in your toes. And that's a very important milestone when it comes to walking with a prosthetic, because when you can get to the point where you're getting that much feedback from the floor, it allows you to walk so much better, and it allows it to feel a lot more natural when you do so. The problem with this video is I can try my best to describe it to you as to what it's like to walk, but the problem is you won't be able to understand it until you've been in that position. It's one of those things that you can understand in theory, but you can't know what it feels like until you've done it. And that's the problem with having a prosthetic. It's going to feel awkward at first, but you will get used to it. And just have faith in your prosthetist's skill and your ability to adapt, because the human body adapts very fast to things like this. If you have any more specific questions on aspects of walking with a prosthetic, leave a comment and I'll try and answer it as best I can.